Hello and welcome to the Upper Pen podcast. My name is Dakota Van Linden, and today I'm talking with Dakota Krout, author of the Completionist Chronicles and many more. His books are available online and as audiobooks. In addition to being a writer, Dakota has also started Mountaindale Press, which publishes LitRPG and game lit books. Dakota, thank you for speaking with me today.
Oh, my pleasure, Dakota. I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation. You know, the tale of two Dakotas here.
Yes. Very rarely do I meet anybody else named Dakota, so this is very exciting for me.
Sure. Yeah, same. It's always a pleasure to meet another Dakota that's not a dog, a horse, or, like a small child. So.
I was very surprised by the number of people who have named their dogs Dakota. I was very confused.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you write?
Yeah. So what I write is so it's the specific genre is called LitRPG or game lit, depending on who you ask. And essentially, it is fantasy or sci-fi, depending. That is bound by the rules of a video game. So when I take my fantasy, I'm able to do kind of a hard fantasy pass for people. So I say, here is what's going on. My character gets these abilities, these spells, and everything is assigned a resource. So, like whether it's mana, whether it's stamina, or even sometimes using health, depending on the physical abilities or magical abilities that they're using. There are resources that are clearly viewable to the reader. Yeah.
Is there a difference between lit RPG and progressive literature, or?
Yes. So typically progressive literature is what is called soft. It has what's called a soft magic system, right? So you can see the difference. Let's go with Tolkien, right? So if we start talking about Lord of the Rings, that would be what's called a soft magic system, because you know that magic exists. You know that it is usable by the characters in the book, some of them, but you don't really understand how or why it works. It's just what we call hand-wavium, right? So you say, well, I'm going to, I don't know, pick you up and swing you around by pointing at you. Well, okay, so you're using the magic. You don't really know how it works. It's not clearly explained to the readership, and that's the biggest difference. Is it is clearly explained. It has rules. It has things like stats that cannot be broken. That's the biggest thing. Is you have to follow the rules of the game, or else it's a different genre. So that's basically how that works.
So in your Completionist Chronicles, you actually have a way for the main character, Joe, to sometimes break the game. And Cal snarks at him all the time about it.
Yes. So part of that is, I actually have a degree in computer science. And part of what I did was actually programming things. And one of the most annoying things that you can do is, like as a programmer, is have someone come in and show you where they can get around all the safety precautions that you put in place, right? So so in a game, there are oftentimes punishments for things, right? Like, so if you go to an area you're not supposed to be in, if you do things that you're not supposed to do, typically in real games, like that we could play, your character would just die. Like you fall out of the map, or you do other things, and that does happen throughout the book, because my character can respawn. He can come back to life. There's many times where he pushes the bounds and tries to break the rules and literally blows up. Like he'll just be walking along and explode. And it's intended to be funny. It's intended to be game-like, and that's kind of the point of it. Is it's supposed to be what happens in actual games. There are times where he breaks the rules accidentally, right? So like there's one point where, like I said, he falls out of the world, and he just so happens to fall into a new map. And obviously he can't survive in that map for very long at all, because everything there is much higher level than he is. So he just dies. And that's just how it would work in a real game as well. But he gets an achievement for it. I think that's kind of what you were pointing at. So yes.
So the Cal always is snarky, and he always like, oh, you have broken the game or error, error, error. So I like how you work in that fact of how games actually work. So that was
Yes.
really great for me.
Oh, thank you. And I try, and it's a big deal because, like I said, if we're not writing a game-like world, it's a different genre. You know,
Yeah.
I'm, as much as my books are epic fantasy, but they are the specific subgenre of epic fantasy of LitRPG, and that's what I had to remember when I'm writing them, because otherwise I'm in a much broader category,
Mhm.
and I'm not giving what my fans what I'm promising. So. Mhm.
That's a very nice way of looking at it. Just giving them what they are looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
So one thing that I also noticed about Cal, the computer AI system for
Yes.
this game, is that you use him like a literary device. Like
Yes.
we would use a third person omniscient narrator, but he's also a character in and of himself, kind of like Death in The Book Thief by Marcus
Mhm.
Zusick. Is that how you initially wrote him, or was he just supposed to be that game narrator?
So Cal is in this context his own character, right? So he would be like the like, to put it in perspective of other things, he would be like the admin, right? So he's someone who can go in and talk to people directly, but he's also just like the person who is setting the game up. So he can pop in and be like, okay, this issue got elevated to me. What in the actual heck is going on? Why did it get all the way to me? It's not supposed to. There's all these different checks before it gets to him. And so if you're drawing the attention of the game moderator, obviously that's usually a bad thing, right? And so it does create him, or it does end up with the character getting cursed. So so it's a fun thing that we can do. So it was always intended to be a character. So Cal is the main character of the Divine Dungeon series, which is another series I wrote. I wrote that series first. So these two are connected because it moves from him being the main character in that book series to him being the kind of the mind behind the world in this other series. And another thing is that in most of the series that I write, even series that are not affiliated with the Divine Dungeon, I do put in things that are Cal, so CAL. So like in the Completionist Chronicles, he's the certified altruistic lexicon, right? So it's Cal. In another book series I write, he's the cultivation achievement level, or in another one, it's the I forget exactly. I forget exactly what it is. I just put out that series, so it should be fresh in my head. But but I'm working on the other one. That's why it's even fresher in my head. But those are just Easter eggs. But it's just been a fun thing to have a character that, even if it's not a part of the series, even if the series are not connected, it's fun to have those Easter eggs in there for fans who do read them.
So is Cal a riff off of Hal from 2001?
No, I
Okay.
don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I'm sorry.
So
So,
Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey is HAL, and then
oh,
you had CAL, and I was like, oh, well, maybe they're connected.
no, not at all. Actually, it just turned into a nice acronym. So in the first book, he's actually calcium carbonate.
Oh, okay.
So he falls into a stalagmite, the one that points up. And it's either stalactite or stalagmite. Please don't hate me. So he falls in there, and that's what those are made of. And so that, since he's surrounded by calcium, he's like, I guess my name is Cal. And then that's how it all began. So
Okay.
yeah.
Um, you also have a lot of really funny references from the real world, and my favorite in the Completionist Chronicles is clearly Elon Musk showing up
Sure.
and his space Y and his
Mhm.
other inventions. Um, is that just something you like to play around with because you enjoy Elon Musk, or?
Yes. So I have never specifically stated that it is Elon Musk. I
Uh-huh.
have just heavily implied because he has the same first and last name. Um, so Any relation to real people, living or dead, is totally coincidental.
Coincidentally.
But no, I'm a big fan of seeing what an entrepreneur can achieve, and being able to see that career of Elon Musk and all the hard times that he went through, all the amazing things that he's done since, and it's always super inspirational. And so I mean, obviously, I don't know everything. I only know what I see. But from what I do see, I think he does really cool things. So I like to put characters in like that I think do cool things in the real world. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I even noticed that you were actually in the first Completionist Chronicle book as well.
I show up lightly in all of my books.
Oh,
yes.
I haven't found you in the other ones.
So in one of them, I'm the scholar Dakota.
Oh, okay.
And in a few of them, I put my name in Latin, like Donic Erapent would be in Latin. And it just it's a very rough translation, obviously. I think it was funny because the closest translation for my name in Latin was the word overpowered. And I thought that was really funny. So
perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So it just became Master Don Erapent or something like that. And like people are like, oh, you don't show up in this one. I was like, yeah, totally not.
Not there at all, I promise.
Yeah. But it's just fun doing those little self inserts,
So when you're writing your books, they become audiobooks pretty quickly, right?
Yes.
When you're writing, do you think about what the audiobook is going to sound like, or do you? Okay, so is that why Joe ends up with his hearing condition when Luke Daniels took over?
Yes. So at that point, I knew that we were going to be having a new narrator who would be taking over the series, and I was trying to write it into the lore and kind of give a good explanation, a solid, like an easier transition for the people that were coming along through those audiobooks. It's always difficult to switch narrators or have a big change like that, because it does affect the series overall. People aren't happy about it. Obviously wasn't my first choice, but whatever happens. We moved from working with another company to self-publishing those. And we were unable to continue working with the other guy. So
okay, that makes sense. But that's
right.
Lovely that you wrote the voice change into the books.
Thank you. I'm glad you noticed those things. Like, a lot of people don't see that, or they say, why did you put this here? And I said, it's because of the audiobook. And they're like, oh, well, I don't listen to the audiobook anyway. So
I love audiobooks. It's my favorite time to listen to books is actually when I'm biking around town. So
sure.
Audiobooks are the way to go. I started doing it when I lived in Duluth, and then I just kept doing it when I moved back to Marquette.
On that hill? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I would zigzag up the hill.
Oh, sure. Man, yeah, I used to live in Minnesota, so I'd go to Duluth fairly regularly, like once or twice a year. That's about as much as I ever got out of my house because I like to type. But no, Duluth is a beautiful place, man. So, but that hill is nuts. So
yeah, it was not my favorite place in the winter, so we had to leave.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you actually have a really intense fan base. Your fans seem pretty active in the worlds that you create. It seems like you have a lot of contact with them. I know that my boyfriend Matt is in love with the writing that you do, and he's actually on a bunch of the messaging boards that talk about your books. Were you surprised by the amount of feedback and response you got when you started publishing them?
Absolutely, I was. So it's a very interesting thing because my first book came out in 2016. That was Dungeon Born, and I had intended to write one book and then maybe putter along, eventually make a series, when I had the free time. And something about it, I actually call it failing upwards. So I did everything wrong according to the conventional wisdom of publishing. And it was, it was, what's a good way to put that? It became successful in spite of doing things poorly. So in my first book, when it first came out, I did something that people are strangely emulating, even though we changed it because it didn't work very well. It worked because it was the newest thing, right? So this was the first book, and as you can see, it's black and white.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually pencil, so it was done up in pencil. And so Dungeonborn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, you have very little information from that cover. You have no idea what you're getting into. And it was up to people to stop and read the blurb or go pick up the back cover to figure out what was going on. So contrast the black and white cover with the redone version, right? And the redone version is pretty intense. It's got, you can see the monster, you can see Dale with his Morning Star going up against this huge monster. There's these snake-like creatures coming out, and the world itself is much more pretty, right? But at the time, everyone was putting out these very pretty color covers with lots and lots of color, lots of things going on. And so my book got picked up by the genre, and in a kaleidoscope of these paints, all of a sudden there was black and white. And so it really stuck out on the page when you're scrolling down. So we changed that after about 2 years, when I found out that over a quarter of my hardcore fans almost didn't read my book in the first place because of the terrible cover. But anyway, so in spite of doing things poorly, it was picked up and people ran with it and liked it. And so me, wanting to have adoring fans, quickly,
like all of us do.
right? I mean, who doesn't? It's kind of a neat feeling. I quickly ran at writing more books. So over the next 2 months, I wrote another 200 some odd thousand words and put out the first trilogy in that series. And that started taking off more and more because there were 3 books out. I started a new series, finished the first, kept putting books out, and today I'm up to 18 books out in just over 4 years. Just under 4 years, actually. And yeah, it's been pretty wild. So I'm just going to keep going. As long as people want to have those books, I'm going to keep writing them. So
I really enjoy them a lot. And
thank you.
I really love, so I've only read the Completionist Chronicles, or rather listened to them. I haven't read the other ones yet. I'm gonna have to read Cal's origin story now, though. But I really enjoy it, and it doesn't ever feel like it gets stale because the world changes around the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the pleasing things I think about LitRPG is the world can adapt as you need it to. Now you actually started your own press, correct?
Yes.
Mountaindale Press.
Indeed.
Were you self-publishing your books before?
Yes.
Okay. And now, yeah, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Oh, now you actually help other people publish books.
Yes.
Has this changed your view as how you write or how you approach literature?
Yes and no. So it becomes much more a community and much less and much less striving for just personal prowess, I suppose. So the first, remember how I mentioned that I did everything wrong by conventional wisdom that first year or so? We moved into trying to do better, right? So we found editors, we found artists, we went to different functions like conventions and talks and classes and learned how to do not just the writing, not just the networking, but also the business aspect of things. right? Like, how do we market? How do we get my books in the hands of people that have not seen them? Like, how do we expand that more than just naturally, word of mouth? And so we between the what we call opportunity costs, which is like the pay to play. You go to a convention, it costs money, you have to fly there, you have to, all these things added up really quick, and soon we were well over 5 figures of money being poured into just figuring out how to do things correctly, and at least by conventional wisdom, and that worked out very well in our favor, right? So at the time, so back in 2016 and early 2017, it was really easy to put out a book and have it be seen, right? The genre was very small. The community was really hungry for it. There just wasn't all that much option, and so when you put out a book, it would shoot to the top of the charts. It would stay there for a good long time. People would go nuts for it. And my reaction was, this is awesome. How long is it going to last? So with that, we, after taking those courses when we didn't, need to, really has paid off, because now we're able to maintain our, we're able to maintain our sales, even though, all this is going on. We're able to bring other people along. And the coolest thing is that we can take what I do and apply it to other people and have it be successful, which is just the coolest thing, because you always have that doubt in your head, that little voice saying, I'm just lucky, and it's true, because we absolutely are lucky, but it's capitalizing upon that luck that makes you successful, right? And being able to take our methods and apply them to other people has been a huge, I guess I want to say, relief, that what we're doing is working, what we're doing is the correct thing, and that it's correct for us and our people, maybe not correct for everyone. And so it's kind of a cool, validating experience.
Do you have any advice to people looking to publish their first works?
Yes. Look into doing it yourself. Self-publish, like, very seriously. Look into that. I have a huge amount of people. We get anywhere from 10 to 15 authors a week trying to get into Mountaindale Press right now. And most of the time, I'm able to just direct them toward self-publishing resources, and they are happy, and I never hear from them again. Now that can be, that can be positive or negative. Like, it could be that they just never published. Like, they saw that, decided they didn't want to do the work, knew they weren't going to be published by me, and stopped. I hope that's not the case. I hope they just, like, I've seen a few of them go out and publish, their own stuff, and they do pretty well. But having that knowledge that you can do it, that you yourself, if you put in the effort, can have a successful series, and have it all your own and run how you want it, that gives you a huge amount of not just bargaining power, but kind of self-validation. Like, there is a whole industry built around self-publishing. Like, you can publish on Amazon. The problem with that, obviously, is the cost. There can be high costs. Like, if you want really high quality covers, if you want really high quality editing, if you want people to go through your stuff and make sure it fits the genre, putting out a book can cost anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, right? And so, and then, add in marketing, add in learning how to do marketing, and all of a sudden you're thinking about starting a publishing company, because you're so far into it that you're like, man, I need to publish other people so this knowledge doesn't go to waste. But it's a thing, like, knowing that you can do it, that you can go out there and you can do it for yourself, makes you less susceptible to taking bad deals, right? It makes you less susceptible to signing contracts that might have a exclusivity clause, and then you can't publish under your own name ever again unless you work with them, stuff like that. Read contracts. So if you do want to work with other people, read contracts, read whatever they're putting in front of you, understand what they're putting in front of you. When we actually take on new authors, I sit with them and I go over our whole contract, and then I give them a copy to look over, and I say, read this. We'll talking it in 2 or 3 days. Make sure you understand this. And if you have questions, come talk to me, because the last thing I want is someone not knowing what they're getting into. But that's, for a lot of companies, that's what they are after, right? A lot of companies are after people not knowing what they're getting into. For traditional publishing deals, a lot of people don't understand that for most traditional publishing deals, they own the copyright of those books for the life of the author plus 70 years, which is the longest possible copyright in America, right? And like the longest legal possible copyright. And so if you think about that, what that actually means is after you're gone, 70 years later, you're hoping to leave a legacy for your family. You're hoping to leave something for your family. And this company has this stuff. They're watching it. They're watching the date that it was copyrighted. And as soon as it becomes public domain, they copyright it under their own company because they can, because that was in the contract. All of a sudden, your family that you left all this stuff to, your estate has been making maybe pennies at that point, but it's something going to the people you left behind. All of a sudden, they have nothing, and they will probably never even notice. That's kind of thing. 70 years after someone's gone, and so putting in stuff to like figuring out what you are actually trying to get out of something, and knowing that you can do it for yourself will bring you to a much better and much stronger position for yourself, for your family, for whatever you want out of it. But going in, knowing what you want and not just taking what someone gives you is a big, important thing to do. But not just in publishing, but in life.
One of the other things that I think self-publishing gives you is just the freedom to write whatever you would want. So LitRPG in the United States is not a very big publishing priority. Most publishing houses right now are focused on literary fiction, which is to the detriment, I think, of those publishing houses, because people want new fiction. So just being able to self-publish, I think, will get you that freedom.
It'll get you that freedom. It'll get you where you want to be much faster. It's smaller scale. That is something to think on too, is it is smaller scale. If you, again, it all comes down to what you want out of things. And I wanted, like you're saying, I wanted the freedom of publication. I wanted to be able to put out my ridiculous things, my guy that can turn his hands into T-Rex heads and bite people with his hands, like I wanted to be able to do that. And if I were not as popular as I am currently, I'm sure like a publishing house trying to pick me up would never be interested. Whereas now I'm saying just no to them. It's the tables are turned, but it's so fun to be able to do that. Obviously, there's a higher risk. Like a company that's pretty well standing knows the tropes. They know what is going to do well in the general audience that they are publishing for. So, I mean, it's really a trade-off. You can have these really cool projects that you hope do well. They have the potential to put enough marketing behind something to make it do well, right? And yeah, so that's one of those, you get this, but you lose that sort of thing. Right.
There's always a trade-off with the publishing world. So as long as you know what you're getting into, I guess that's the real thing.
Yeah, I recommend indie publishers, frankly. People that are small enough to care about you and what you're doing, and want to do well. They're hungry, like our company. We want to do well. We want our authors to be able to go. Like, my goal is not to make as much money as I possibly can. My goal is to get our authors to be full-time authors, because if they're then full-time authors and they're going from a book to 4 books a year, 5 books a year, they're doing well. I'm doing well. Everyone's doing better overall. Like, it's a huge win. The fans are happy. The author's happy. I'm happy. That's my goal. And I'll take a smaller cut of things so that I can have more things to have a cut of. And
Mhm.
that's really been our modus operandi for 3 years now. So I think if you talk to any of our authors, they'd be very happy with what they see. But it does force us to be more selective. So.
Mhm. So you say that you turn people away. Is there ever a time, when do you accept people? Do you have to like really engage with their work, or?
So I used to, when I started, I handpicked everyone, right? So I went out and I found books on like various web novel things, and I reached out to the authors directly. I said, "Hey, you're a great author. Do you want to put your books out? And I can help you with that." And we've grown to the point now where I have an acquisitions team, right? So I have people send in submissions, and most of the time I don't really ask for things about the book. I ask for a bio. I ask for kind of what they're after with their publishing, a short summary of like 300 words. I ask for 300 words about the book, right? Like, tell me about your book. Tell me where you think it would fall within our genre, so on and so forth. And, then if we like what we see there, my acquisitions team will send them on. They'll ask for a sample of their writing. So if the writing looks good, the book looks good, they have a good outline, that sort of thing, then we reach out and talk about working together. So it's a bit of a process, and it has to be. I mean, frankly, I'm working 12 to 16-hour days on the regular already, trying to get to every single person in the most, in the fastest, like as soon as something comes in, it's just not going to happen. So, yeah.
Now that we know how busy you are with your press, do you have any new projects coming up that you're working on?
Yeah. So, with the company, we're training employees. That's a big thing. I'm very excited about that. So like I said, the acquisitions team took over that portion of what I do. A couple different employees we've been delegating different stuff to. It's making sure that we have that SOP, the standard operating procedure, that they can follow, so that when we hire them, we can say, here's what you do. It is a packet. You can follow this step by step, and make it real easy, because otherwise they kind of come in and panic a little bit. But in terms of actually what I'm writing, so I'm going to go get another book for you.
Okay.
So I just put out a new book. It's really something. So I don't know if you have seen this, but it's really something. Literally, right? So
I have seen that. Yeah.
Yes. So book title is Something. And so I'm calling this so it's the Full Murder Hobo series. As you can see on the cover, there is a guy punching a goat with improvised goat horn weapons. You can't really see them because they're very light. Yeah, so that's a thing. So that book title is Something, and then I'm hoping next year to put out Anything and then Everything. So,
okay.
Yeah, so that you can read something by Dakota Krout, anything by Dakota Krout, read everything by Dakota Krout, right? And so that works out for me because I like to be ridiculous. Now, obviously, I'm continuing on with my main series, which is the Completionist Chronicles. I'm hoping to have another one of those out this year. We'll see what happens. It's October 1 right now. But I'm hoping to have it in recording in December.
Okay.
And then next year, I am trying, and we'll see how it goes. This project might be put off till 2022, but I am trying to have a 12-book series ready to go in 2021. So one a month for the entire year.
Okay.
And we're gonna see what happens. I'm about 3 books in, but they need so much editing because of how quickly I'm writing them, that I had to slow down pretty quick, or pretty fast. So yeah, I just had to slow down. And then so what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have at least 4 written.
Okay.
By December and ready to go. Because if I can do that, then I'll have January, February, March, and April ready, and I can stay ahead of schedule for the rest of the year, and then wait to have those books out. If I can make it happen, if I can have 4 books by Christmas, it'll be a very good new year. So
Okay.
otherwise, I'm going to put it off until the following year, just so that I can have, you know, I want to do the whole series all at once. And then what I'm probably going to do is open that universe up to other authors that want to come in and write for it. So,
Ooh, that's so exciting.
yeah. Yeah. So it's just making sure the details are really well thought out and put down. I have other people trained to go through as lore masters so that I don't have to be even involved in it, but we can expand the universe out really far, which is something I'm hoping to do with that.
I'm hoping to see a Dakota Krout D&D book come out eventually, just with all of the
I mean,
series.
I am working on a board game right now. It's not D&D, but maybe someday I'll work with some professionals and have them put those out.
I mean, you can almost do it step by step as it is, just going through the books, but I'd be really excited for a Dakota Krout game.
We'll see what we can do. My focus is books. It's content creation. And I'm trying to get some people that can help me with offloading those other tasks. So like movie deals, book, like games, merchandise, stuff like that. That's all things that's not my specialty. My specialty is writing funny things and making people laugh and writing them fast. And so I'm going to keep at that. So that's my goal.
That sounds like a perfect goal to me. Is there any social media you'd like to plug or anything that people can contact you on?
Yeah. So you can always find us at mountaindalepress.com. You can reach out to us from there. There's a contact us page for authors, just for general questions and comments for people looking for work. We're not super looking for any of that right now, but I mean, if you want to, it's there. You can always find us at facebook.com. I think it's / Mountaindale Press. And then my personal author page there is facebook.com / The Divine Dungeon. And you can always find me at patreon.com / Dakota.Krout. I think we're on Twitter, pretty sure. We're expanding to Instagram, Reddit. Yeah, we're all over the place. So if you Google me, I think I'm like the first 15 pages. So yeah.
Okay, so you're available for people to chat.
I'm available. You can find me if you want to look. If you want to look for me, you can find me pretty easily. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Dakota, for joining me today.
Dakota, thank you for having me on. This was really fun.
Thanks for listening and have a great day.